Okay, so this video I put together because I was thinking about how to best suspend pieces in resin so that I could then turn them and make these cool pieces. And I've seen other people do this using sort of little pieces of thread or using little bits of plastic holding in place. And I just wanted to see if I could come up with a better way of doing that, something that was invisible. So these are the two end pieces. If you look carefully, you may see the conclusion, but skip to the end if you actually want to see which one worked, or watch the video and you'll see how I actually put these two pieces together, how I ended up in ER during the process, and hopefully this will help you with your turnings. So what I'm going to try and do today is work out or practice with a couple of different methods of suspending some plastic toys into resin so I can turn a sphere. But in the center of the sphere, there will be a toy. This is one I tried earlier just with some leftover resin, and this first one, the one that you can actually see that is actually floating away from the surface, there's two different kinds of thread there. You can see them both in that now. The white thread was better, maybe fishing wire would work, but I think you're always going to see that. Now the other one, the one that floated, what I actually did with that one was, as I have here, was I actually attached it to the piece of wood using a piece of resin that's the same resin that I'm setting it in. So my theory is it has the same refractive index as the resin around it, so it would be very hard to see as long as it's nice and clean. This I did by taking some of the resin, putting it into a syringe and then forcing it through a straw. I sprayed the straw with some release spray first and put it in the pressure pot. It's got a few bubbles in it, but actually it's easy enough to find a short piece that's clean. Now, when I did it with this one, I did use a hot glue gun, and I have found that the heat that you get, this is the Alumilite Amazing Plus, Clear Cast Plus. It's a very slow setting resin, but it still gets very hot. You can do nice deep pours with it. And I think it melts the glue. So I don't know what happened to this one. You cannot see it. Oops. You cannot see it at all. So I don't know if it dissolved or whether my theory was right and it's there, but it's invisible. So what I've done this time is I've glued it in there, but I've used this ultraviolet glue, which is very nice to work with actually, because it doesn't go off until you shine the light on it. So this is glued in there. I'm going to drop this into one of my disposable resin molds. So I'll drop it in there. This one I'm going to fill right to the top with resin and put it in the pressure pot. But I'm going to try a different method for this one. So for this one, and you can see I've put a piece of this cedar in the bottom already. This one, I'm going to suspend this just above, maybe half an inch above the wood. And then I'm going to fill this with resin just sort of above the body of the fighter so that it's encapsulated in there. Then I'm going to leave it in there for 2 hours. Hopefully it will be set enough that it will be sort of encapsulated and held in there, and then I will attempt to take this piece of wood off the top, and then I'll fill it right to the top with more resin, and hopefully you won't get that line that you get between two pours of resin. I think they call it a witness line, and that's what I'm aiming for, is to work out just some way of holding these in the sort of the dead center of the sphere. So I'm going to go mix some resin. I'll glue this piece into here. I'll affix this in the right space. I'll show you how I've done that when I come back, and I'll come back for the pour. So wish me luck. Okay, so both the pieces are prepared now. This one you can see it's suspended about half an inch above the wooden base, and just using a couple of tongue depressors that are just hot glue gunned into there. So this one I'm going to pour first, and I'm going to pour the resin to above the halfway point of the body without getting too close to where the glue is, so that on the second pour it won't lift out. So I basically want it to be encapsulated in there. So I'll pour that one first, and then this one, as I showed you before, this one is suspended using just a piece of resin. I ran a little bit of this aluminium tape. I'm a huge fan of this for pouring. It sticks really well, and it sort of molds into the shapes really well. So I've done this because I think this is actually a little bit shallow, this piece. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to over pour it, so it's going to come higher than the edge of the plastic. I just cut these bits of plastic too short. Don't know why. It's not like it's the first time I've done it, but so I'll do that so I can pour higher than the plastic. But let me do this one first. So I've mixed up some resin. As I say, this is the Alumilite Clear Cast Plus, and I think it has a demold time of like 24 to 48 hours, which is pretty incredible. So we'll come back to this one in 2 hours and see how it looks. So let me just pour this resin in. There's bubbles in this. I find with a deep pour like this, I actually use a mixer to mix this, and it gets bubbles, but when it goes in the pressure pot, there's really never any sign of the bubbles in the end. So I don't know if I'm getting lazy or quite what, but and what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to pour this and just give it a few minutes to actually soak down, because it's gonna go between the wood and the mold, and I need to let it get down into there. Otherwise I'm going to get some, what I believe Seinfeld calls shrinkage. Okay, let's get a little bit more in there. I'm feeling like I don't have enough resin, but one of the advantages of using this without any tint in is I can just knock up another batch. So that's just starting to get, let me see if I can move this. It's going to be hard to see it just on camera. There we go, but you can probably see it's just starting to come around the body. So I'll get a little bit more in here. I think the important thing is that it doesn't get as high as the hot glue, because I don't want the hot glue inside the resin, otherwise I won't be able to get it out. If you wondered why I have brown paper, you'll see the mess I make. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more in, I think, because if anything, it's going to go down. And what I tend to do with a piece like this is I'll put it in the pressure pot and put it under pressure, and then leave it for literally just a minute or two and drop the pressure, and then repressurize it and drop the pressure. I'll do that 2 or 3 times. And what I find is if there's any sort of voids underneath or inside the wood, which there shouldn't be in this, but sometimes if I'm using really sort of, holy wood, it'll basically force the bubbles out. I guess they get small, sort of move, and when the pressure's dropped and they enlarge, they tend to rise. I mean, you can see some of these coming around the edge. So I'm going to put a little bit more in. I'd just like to get it above the it's above the halfway point of the fuselage now, but I think if I could just get it a little bit higher, that would be good. Yep, and I'm going to go a little bit more, because it's certainly not going to go deeper on its own, but it could drop a little bit. Okay, I think I'm probably about there now. Yeah, I think you can probably see that should be enough, that as long as the resin has set enough, I should be able to, with a pair of needle nose pliers, get that hot glue out carefully, and then get a second pour in there. Okay, I'm going to just leave that to one side. This one's going to be a little bit easier, although, as I say, it feels like I'm going to be short of resin, which is strange because I did measure it. My tip for measuring these is, what I do is I actually pour, I think it's like barley or something, but one of those grains that you buy in the supermarket, in the grocery store. I pour that in, and then tip that into a graduated cup, so I can actually see how, sort of how much I need. And I use something like barley because it's big enough that, there's no sort of dust or anything left behind. I'll show you that in a different video. Actually, I'm not too bad here, but I think I'll probably just risk it. I think that's going to be okay. I know you can't see. You can see an advert for Too Good yogurt. It's very good if you don't eat sugar. It's actually very good because it's a nice size container. I'm sure this is going to be okay. It's good. Okay, so I am going to put these into the pressure pot. I think what I'll do is I'll come back after an hour. I normally leave the pressure pot for like 48 hours. I don't see any reason to open it any earlier than that. So this is going to be a little bit of a first for me to actually even open a pressure pot that early. But what I'll do is I'll open up the pressure pot in an hour, I think, and just take a look at how the resin looks. And actually, certainly this piece has it floated to the top. And I'm expecting after an hour it's still going to be sort of pretty viscous and not set enough. But then then I'll come back after another hour, and if needs be, I'll keep doing that. And when I come back on camera, I'll let you know how many times I had to do that. But that one's just as I wanted it, just above the fuselage. This one, I think that's actually going to be okay. You see some bubbles coming up because that's actually coming from the where the wood's sitting in the bottom, but there won't be many of those. And as I say, I'll cycle the pressure pot 2 or 3 times in the first sort of 10 minutes, and typically that's enough just to sort of, I guess, just encourage those bubbles to come out. So next time you see me, we will be looking inside the pressure pot after an hour. Alrighty. Okay, so this one did stay in place, which is nice, and this one I managed to get the wood off the top, and you can see it's sort of half in there. So I am going to top this one up. And if I have anything left, I'll just put a little bit more in the other one. I suspect I won't. I'll put a little bit more in this one. All right, I'm going to turn the video off so I can scrape that out, and I'll see you in 48 hours. Okay, so I've got them out of the pressure pot, and I've popped off the plastic drain pipe. This is the one where I did 2 pours, and this was actually in for probably over 3 hours in the end, because I cut my finger, so I had to go and get that glued back together again and the splint put on. But actually it looked okay, so I did the second pour, and then this is the one where it's on a post. It's very hard to tell from the side, even with a little bit of mineral spirits on there, but I can't really see a line, I don't think. I think I might be imagining it because it's too high. So anyway, so that one looks okay. We'll get that one turned. Then this is the one where it's on a post, and can't see the post at all, but I can see a little blob of the glue that I used in the bottom. You're not going to be able to see it on the camera. So anyway, next step, let's get these 2 on the lathe, turn them into spheres, get them polished up, and see which of those worked best. Okay, it's a week later, and took the pieces out of the pressure pot, just turned them actually just in the last couple of hours, and just polished them up on the buffing wheel, and definitely different. I think I have a favorite, but it needs some refining. So this is the one where I did 2 pours. So it was held slightly under the level of the first pour to hold it in place. And then what turned out to be 3 hours later, because I had to go to ER with my finger, I did the second pour. And the good thing about this one is, there is nothing holding it in place. So when you look at it like this, it's great. I mean, one thing is these models, which are actually really quite small in real life, look huge in the sphere. So I think I need to try and find smaller ones. The issue is that there is that line there. You can see it there. You actually don't see it when you're just looking at the piece from above, or even if it was just sat on a desk or something. But if you turn it, there you go, you can see that line, which is the line between the two pours. So it looks better sort of when it's just sat there, or it looks good when it's just sat there. I think that's a pretty good look. She came out quite nicely with the cedar, which does turn well. So there's that one piece. Now this piece, the first thing to notice is the glue. So, oops, sorry about that. So you can see the glue on the wood, and you can come around and see if you can see from the back better. No, it's a little bit hard to see here, but there is a tiny dab of glue there. But in between those two dabs of glue, there is actually a pillar, and I don't know if you can see it. There's possibly just a little bit of a there. So if you just put my finger behind, see if that helps at all. Well, I don't know if you can see it at all, but if you look really closely there, just below where the dab of glue is, you can see a slight shadow. That is the pillar of resin that was actually holding that in place. So I think this one worked really well, except you can see that big, there we go, a big blob of glue in the bottom. Now I've got a solution here. There's a couple of solutions. One would be to drill a hole and then just push the straw-sized piece of resin into the hole so that it was further down. But actually what I'm going to try in the next one, which I might not put in the video, maybe I'll just put a comment in later on, is I'm thinking if I do a small pour of resin in the bottom with that piece of straw, the straw-sized piece of resin sticking out, that's going to hold it there nicely. And even if you do get that line between the two pours, you're not going to see it down in there. So I'm thinking that's my next sort of solution, and I think that's going to be the right solution. This is not centered as much as I had hoped, and I think that's just a factor of it's just quite hard to get these things centered and then turn them centered. So I'm thinking next time also what I'll do is I'll place the model sort of turning intentionally off center, so it sort of looks like it's banking. I mean, I think it's pretty amazing. And again, if it was sat on your desk, you know, I don't know, maybe you would see the glue actually as I look at it. Anyway, I will put these two on Etsy at a reduced price, because it's not the quality of work that I try and do normally. But anyway, I think we've got to the answer. I think the answer is to use the straw-sized piece of resin, using exactly the same resin that we're using for the actual sphere, so it has the same refractive index, so the light passes through it in the same way. Just don't glue it, even using that nice UV glue, which does looks like it is crystal clear. So I think that's the answer. It's a little bit more work than this one, but I think it's worth it to lose I think they call it a witness line, but to lose that line. So anyway, those are the two pieces. As I say, actually that looks quite cool like that, doesn't it? So anyway, I'll keep working on this, and as I say, maybe I'll just put a comment in the bottom of the YouTube video when I've tried this next time. I've got some plans for some other ones. So anyway, I hope this helps, and I hope it was useful. If you've got any questions, put them below, and good luck. So I was just putting together the video that you may have just watched, and when I'd gotten over cringing about how often I say I realized that one of the methods, the method of suspending the toy above the base on a piece of resin was actually very effective. Other than the glue that you could see where I'd fixed this to the wood, it works. And as I mentioned, I think I have a solution for that, which would be to pour a small amount of the same resin that I'm using, the same resin that's in this straw, in the bottom, just hold this in place, sort of just temporarily. Then this is being held on the wood in a piece of resin. But it's very effective. I think that's the method, and it's almost invisible. You have to really know that it's there to see it. So I don't think it's going to get any better than that. So I thought I should actually show you a little bit more about how I actually made this piece. It's not rocket science, but it did take some trial and error. So again, the first thing is using the same resin that you're going to pour for the actual piece. That's really important. What I do is I take a syringe. Just didn't but anyway, take the syringe, get the resin into the syringe, take a straw which I've sort of pre-sprayed with the mold release. I'm not sure it makes that much difference, but it did make it a little bit easier to get it out. I tried it with and without. Then just push the straw over the end of the syringe and fill the straw with the resin. And then what I did was I folded over the end and just put a bit of blue tape around it. And then I put this into my pressure pot vertically so it wouldn't leak out the bottom, and any bubbles that there were might move up. And I left it there for 48 hours because I'm using the Clear Cast Alumilite resin, which has a 48-hour demolding time. And what comes out is a piece like this. You can see there are bubbles in it. I think it's hard to get them all out just because it's in such a small space, but there's plenty of pieces there where there are no bubbles. And then all I did was I cut like a 1-inch section of this. Then you would glue that, or not glue it, but resin it to the base piece of wood, and then affix the toy to the top. So that's really all there is to it. The magic is the fact that this piece of resin, which, as I say, I cast in a straw, is the same resin, and it's clean with using the same resin that's going to be poured everywhere else. I did think that if the toy floated, another way of doing this would be to just use a pipe of resin to sort of hold it down, but I think you'd have to have a much wider piece of resin. I might just try that when I've got some leftover resin one day. But anyway, I wanted to show you specifically what the trick was, and that again, the trick is this piece of suspension, whatever you want to call it, this rod is made of the same resin as you're going to pour everywhere else. So it has the same refractive index, and wherever you can use resin to hold it in place. And that was the one that worked. So again, I just wanted to add this to the end of the video just to show you specifically what I did, because I realized when I looked through the video I wasn't showing you the details. Hope that helps. If you have questions, put them in the comments below. It's not like I have much in the way of people asking me questions, so I'll be more than happy to answer anything you've got. And again, good luck with your castings.